Hey, I'm Jeff and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you 5 plants that I have in my collection here that have fairly uniquely shaped leaves. And the cool thing about these plants that I'm going to show you is that they continue to change as they mature. I am a little bit distracted here because there is a little ladybug crawling around the top. So I think I'm going to start off with this beautiful plant. This is my Philodendron Golden Dragon. I've had this plant now for a few months and I actually bought it off a good plant friend of mine. She obviously didn't want it anymore, so I bought it. It does come with 2 cuttings and I did place it on this moss pole. So far, in my experience, it's been a very fast growing plant. I think I've gotten 2 or 3 new leaves on each stem so far. And as you can see down here, one of the lower leaves is in its juvenile form and it looks no different than any other philodendron leaf out there. But as it continues to grow up the moss pole or whatever support system it is that you have, the leaves actually change shape. They get very definitive lobes at the top as well as curvature along the leaf, and in its mature form it actually resembles a dragon's face. So the leaf itself becomes fairly elongated with those curvatures or lobes, I guess they're called. And yeah, it resembles a dragon's face. It is a very striking leaf with its kind of lighter green. It darkens up as it matures, but it's a beautiful plant, and I'm happy to have this one. I think I paid her like $20 for this plant. So it's not one that I see very often, but there's that ladybug again crawling around the top. But yeah, so far it's done really well, and I can't wait till I get those mature kind of dragon head leaves. This next plant probably doesn't need an introduction, but this is my Alocasia Jacqueline. It's one of the more popular houseplants I found this year in 2023, and for obvious reasons, it has a beautifully shaped leaf. But aside from the shape itself, another cool or interesting feature of it is the texture on the top of the leaf. It has very small little hairs, but it feels very rough, where the underside of the leaf is fairly smooth, and then it has a very beautifully colored and a patterned petiole. So this is a very unique, beautiful plant. In its smaller leafed juvenile form, it does have less of these lobes. It's more of a regular like alocasia shaped leaf, and as it matures, then it gets these deep indents or lobes on the leaf. So yeah, it's a very cool plant, and they've definitely come down in price. They're more affordable. I've seen smaller cuttings now for like $20 or smaller plants for like $20. So very easy to care for. I spray this one off quite frequently because if you collect alocasias, you know that they are basically spider mite magnets. So anytime that my plant needs to be watered, I take it over to the bathroom, I spray off the leaves. Yeah, just making sure that they stay clean. And I would also consider this one fairly low maintenance because a lot of times I let this one get a little bit drier than I probably should, and it responds after a good thorough watering. I really haven't had any issues with the leaves themselves, aside from this younger one. It's turning a little bit yellow here, but I've been keeping an eye out for spider mites as I've been dealing with a little bit of a spider mite issue on some of my plants downstairs here. But this one, for the most part, has been, yeah, it hasn't really given me any trouble. So if you can find it, and if you're brave enough to try out an alocasia for the first time, this is one that I would recommend. If you follow my channel, you'll know that this plant is my favorite plant out of all of my houseplants right now that I have in my collection. This is the Philodendron Tahiti. I've also seen it called the Philodendron mayoi. I believe both names are used interchangeably as they are the same plant, but I could be wrong. I'm not too sure. If you know if there's a difference, just leave it down in the comment section. I'd love to know if they're 2 separate plants or if they are in fact the same plant. But regardless, just like the Golden Dragon, this plant starts off with a very typical philodendron shaped leaf, and as it grows and matures, it goes to more of a palm-like leaf, which is, I don't know, I think it's absolutely beautiful. Very unique for sure. The color, the green is just beautiful. Yeah, I am basically at a loss of words for this plant. I just can't get over the leaf shape as it continues to grow. Now, the crazy thing about this plant, and with this leaf in particular, is watching it unfurl. These thin portions of the leaves, they're all wrapped up, and yeah, you think they are going to rip and tear, and you feel like you need to intervene and unravel them. but surprisingly it unfurls on its own, obviously, and it comes out undamaged. Like there is not a crease or a flaw, a blemish or anything on this leaf. It actually made me quite nervous watching this unfurl, but just it's nature, just let it do its thing, and it comes out and it rewards you with this stunning leaf. If you could find this plant, or if it's anywhere in your area, I highly recommend this plant. I did take a bunch of propagated cuttings. That's how you can see the smaller juvenile leaf form, and as it grows, it transforms into more of these lobes and eventually into this palm leaf. But if you can find it, this is one philodendron that is very easy to care for. It likes to grow up a moss pole or a support stake, but for the most part, it's given me zero grief. Aside from me liking it so much that I think I'm going to kill it, it's been a no stress plant. And right now, I know if you're in Canada, North Shore Tropicals has them for I think like $15, smaller plants. But if you can find a cutting and you're into philodendrons and you don't have this, put this on your list. This is a beautiful, beautiful philodendron. For this next plant, I'm going to switch it up a little bit. This is actually an Anthurium. This is the Potato radiatum, and it's also called the Anthurium fingers. For obvious reasons, it looks like these lobes are fingers. And just like a philodendron, when it's in its juvenile form, it has a very typical heart-shaped Anthurium leaf, and as it grows and matures, it gets these lobes or fingers, and as it continues to grow and mature, it gets more of these finger-like leaf structures. Right now this one has like 5, but I've seen pictures in its very large mature form of there being like 10 or even more fingers. It's quite a striking plant. This one, again, in regards to Anthuriums, has been a very easy to care for plant. It's given me relatively no stress. I do top dress my Anthuriums with sphagnum moss, otherwise it's just in a nice chunky aroid mix. I bought this one from North Shore Tropicals, and it just had these, I believe, the 2 more juvenile leaves. And at first you don't think it's going to transition into the cool plant which you want, but it does take time. So I think I've had this plant for, I'm guessing, maybe a year. And yeah, you don't think it's doing anything, and then all of a sudden it puts out the first mature form of the leaf, and obviously you get excited and you can't wait for the next one. So yeah, if you're into Anthuriums and you don't have this one, this is a pretty unique one. And I can't remember what I actually paid for this, but I believe it was probably around the $50. I could be wrong, but yeah, if you're wanting a unique leafed Anthurium, this is a beautiful one to get. This last one is another philodendron, and this one is the Campo Sportoianum. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I'm going to call it the philodendron Campo. This one I love because it has a very similar leaf to, say, like a philodendron micans. It's the very typical heartleaf philodendron, but as it grows up a support plank, it gets these smaller lobes. I call them little flares. It just looks like a little flame or something just coming off the side, but in its mature form, it is actually a tri-lobed leaf. So you'll have a center leaf structure with, it'll look like 2 separate leaves along the top. So a very cool philodendron. This one right now has 3 stems. I do have it just on a support stake. This one, just because of the larger aerial roots, it would do extremely well on a moss pole. So I'm gonna have to maybe propagate this one and place the top section on a moss pole just so I can continue to get the larger tri-lobed leaves. Yeah, this is a fairly inexpensive plant. You don't see it readily available, but it's not, I don't think I paid very much for this, maybe $20 or $30, something like that. But it has done quite well. I just placed this top section on the support stake today. Otherwise, I just had it leaning on my humidifier right there. So that's why it went from a more mature leaf, the lobes, to kind of a reverted one. And now it's getting the little flares at the top here again. But yeah, a super cool philodendron. I love the velvety leaf philodendrons. But yeah, I don't really have much more to say about this one. I might do a care video down the road, how to obviously care for it, propagate it, and then place it on a moss pole. So I think that's going to be pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed my selections for uniquely shaped leaves. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it down in the comment section. Otherwise, thanks again for watching all my videos. I do appreciate the support. Take care, everyone. Bye.